Hey guys, welcome back here to the Fishing Teacher, and appreciate you guys coming by the channel to hang with me a little bit. And guys, today I want to have a conversation about why bass suspend and some good ways to catch them. I grew up here fishing the Missouri Ozarks. I've been fishing for suspended bass since the late 1970s, so very familiar with the whole process of that. And I think to a large degree it is a mystery, but I got some of my theories I want to share with you guys in today's video, and more importantly, help you guys catch some fish when they do suspend here. A couple quick things before we get started here, guys, that you may or may not have heard about it, but we came out with my latest new jig, guys. This is from Cumberland Pro Lures. I helped design it. This is the Blaukat Throwback football head jig. Living rubber, hand-tied skirt on the football head jig. Attention to detail, second to none. It's got a nice sharp 4/0 hook in it. It's got just the perfect amount of strands in the weed guard. Of course, it's got the football head design to come through rocks really good. Straight eye tie to come through the rocks really good. And guys, you will absolutely love this jig. I'll put it in my Tackle Warehouse link in this video description if you guys would like to order a few of them. We got 7 different colors and 2 different sizes. So if you guys want to check those out in my link that I put in the video here. And real quick, guys, a quick reminder, anybody interested in booking a private on-the-water lesson with me, all you got to do is go to my Facebook page, Intuitive Angling with Randy Blaukat, and just hit me up with a private message, and I'll get the details for that. So appreciate the putting up the plugs there. Okay, guys, suspended bass, man. Now, the whole thing about suspended bass, you've heard a lot about it here in the last recent years because of live scope. In general, that's what people target with live scope. And one of the things that live scope has done, I've never said it wasn't an incredible piece of technology. I've always said it's a piece of technology that has no place in the sport of bass fishing, but the technology has allowed us to really understand how many bass do suspend. I've always known that there was a ton of bass that suspended, which didn't make a lot of sense, because I remember back in the early 1970s when we would go down to Table Rock Lake on vacation with my mom and dad. There would be some old dudes down there trolling on Table Rock Lake, usually in like a little 16-foot aluminum V-bottom with like a 10-horsepower motor on it. And they'd troll like bombers and hellbenders for white bass and all that type of stuff. And I remember talking to several of them, talking about the big largemouth that they catch out there in the middle of the lake over 100 foot of water. And so we've known this forever, but for a lot of people, it was speculation. You just thought that, maybe a few of them did, but nobody really knew how much. And another thing about the suspended fish that a lot of people thought, which is still true to some extent, there always has been this thought that suspended bass will suspend in and around targets or structure. In other words, say if you're out off a main lake point, that's a real common area for fish to suspend in, is they get out off those points and they suspend over the points. But you thought that the bass was relating to the point. They can go up or down, and they were there. Or we all, like at Table Rock, I've always known bass suspend in a submerged and standing timber, because guys have been catching them on spoons suspended for 50 years down at Table Rock. So we always thought that they were usually suspended around something like a bridge pier. I've caught a lot of suspended fish around bridge piers, a lot on docks, but we never really knew how many bass out there just literally live their life as open water roamers. Now, the point I want to talk about here is why. Why is a bass just swimming out there in the middle of nowhere? Because you've got some bass that are structure-oriented bass and they're shallow. Some bass live in different depths. And here is my theory on it, what I think about it. Bass are very similar to people, because every person has different things they like and don't like, and things that they want to do. In other words, some people love to live in New York City, in the middle of New York City. That would literally be a living hell for me. But some people, they couldn't stand living out in the country. They couldn't stand, being quiet and being out with no people around them. And everybody else may just be a little bit in between. So you've got bass like me that love to live out in the country, and then I don't want to see another person where I live. I want complete solitude and silence. That some bass may be the same type of bass that lives on a isolated log in the back of a creek their whole life. And then other people that love being in the city may be like those bass that are just roaming out in open water. They just like being out there. But the main thing, the overlying thing with any type of a bass out there is they've got a couple of needs that they have got to met. Number one, they've got to eat. Number two, they've got to reproduce. So if a bass likes to just live out in open water and look for shad that are out in open water, that's what they do. And there's some bass that do that. You've got some bass that like to live in 20 foot of water on the points all year long, grubbing around for crawdads. You got some bass that live up in 2 and 3 foot of water most all year long, and they'll get anything they can get. They'll get a duck, they'll get a bird, they'll get a crawdad, they'll get a perch. They're just predators for anything like that. So bass are just unique and they're different, just like people. I think one of the big reasons that a lot of bass suspend, as far as in my situation, again, being around them, I think one of the biggest things is the fact that, the offshore open water makes them feel safe out there, especially if there's a lot of noise up on the bank, people swimming, boats moving around, trolling motors. They get out there in open water and they just roam around to get away from that. The second with that is, they don't have a lot of competition out there, and bass are sort of territorial. One thing that I found out about them, you can have like one bass take up residence by a stump in 3 foot of water, and that's their home and that's their territory, and they protect that. So some bass may feel that that's just their territory out there, but ultimately, I don't really know why individual bass choose to do what. It's the same when I've heard a couple different tagging studies where bass have been radio tagged at a weigh-in, and you'll have one bass that maybe they were caught all over the lake. You don't even really know where the fish were caught at. You'll have one bass that they're released right there at the takeoff, and they may swim 100 yards down the bank, and they live on a lay-down tree for the whole year. Then there's a couple other bass that swim 5 miles down the lake, and they started living on a rocky bank. And then there was a couple bass that literally swam 35 and 40 miles from where they released at and started taking up residence there. So you don't really know why an individual bass does that, but that's reality that they do suspend out there. So one little tip I'll give you guys here, I know it's sort of a random video, but as far as catching suspended fish, if you want to catch them and you don't want to use the technology to catch them, some of the best ways to catch a suspended bass is to get out off of main lake points and just graph around out there with your 2D sonar if you got one. If you see some bait fish that are suspended out there off the end of that point, which a lot of them do, that'll give you a good indication of how deep the bass are going to be suspended at. So you can do that. You can also catch suspended bass off of bridge piers. You can catch them off of wave breaks. You can catch them off of floating docks over deeper water. There's places that you can catch them without just roaming around out there in the middle. So anyway, guys, just a few random thoughts. Hope you guys are well. We'll talk later.